this is Jenny from Just Being Me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
Welcome everybody, my name's Jenny Field, and here we are today on the Learning to Love Yourself podcast. And today I'm with the very lovely Bec Sheffield, who's been in my world and created some fabulous places for me to go and just blow my mind. So without further ado, I'm actually going to say, welcome, Bec. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. It's really lovely to be here. And what an endorsement that I can blow your mind.
Anytime.
I'll try and live up to that reputation, shall I? So I'm an executive PA to Deborah Simmons, and we run a business called Dare to Be You. And I know at some point you're going to ask a bit more about my work and that kind of thing, so I won't say much now. But being able to sit here and say I'm an executive PA, that's been a journey just in the last 6 months. So I might tell you a bit more about that. But I love what you do because my whole journey has been around self-love. And how do you even know where that starts?
But that would have been my next question. Was there a moment where you actually identified, I need to put myself first, I need to do something about loving me?
Yes. I think the answer to that is both yes and no. There definitely was, but it wasn't, for me, I can't pick out one exact, I was sitting here and it was this day but the period of time for me where it became very clear that self-love and I swap out self-love and self-knowledge because to me they're one and the same. Yeah. I began to see, I need to know who I am, and knowing who I am allows me to love who I am. So that part of the journey was around about 2016-ish. I mean, I can dive sort of in and tell a lot more of my story now. Do you want me to kind of do that?
Yeah, please. Yeah, tell us what
Cool.
went for you then.
Yeah, all right. I always kind of love kind of going back to my story in this way because A, I always tell it differently. And B, it's really fun for me to kind of refresh and look back and go, yeah, that's who I was. And now I'm this person. And over a 10-year period, that it excites me because that means there's even more coming over the next 10 years and then the next 10 years. So it's always fun to do this, isn't it?
That's a key thing you've just said there, is actually recognizing that you're a different person today than you were then.
Yes.
And recognizing for me, I'm a different person today than I was yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. It's happened, obviously, minute increment, but being able to look at 10 years worth of that is quite something. So for me, I would say that this real journey, this purposeful journey began sort of around about 10 years ago. It was actually February 2014. And I'd grown up in a church community. My whole family was kind of church based, and it's what you did. You went to Sunday school, you went to church camp, you did all of that. And I loved it. Like, I really loved it. I loved the sense of community. I loved the idea that there was a God that was looking out for me. But somewhere in the mix of that, I got the wrong message. I got something that tripped me up. I ended up in a position where I felt very lost. I felt very scared. I lived in anxiety, like I could barely breathe. And I was actually working for somebody in the church. And in the working hours, I was just a quivering wreck. Like, people would comment on the fact that I'd lost weight, like that I was ridiculously skinny because I was just living on my nerves. And there's a whole heap of stuff in amongst what went on for me. And I probably won't, only because of time, go into the details and some of that. But essentially the person I was working with, we had a very emotionally manipulative relationship. And I didn't sleep, I couldn't eat, barely focus. And I ended up in an unhealthy, outside of that, an unhealthy romantic and entanglement, shall we say. And all of that was wrapped up in the church. You know, both of those people were part of the church. So all of that in February 2014 just came crashing down around my ears. And I was just a mess. I was a puddle on the floor, if you like. And part of me knew it was my creation. You know, I knew I'd kind of wrapped myself up in all of this, but I didn't quite know how or why. And very thankfully, I think you've already done a podcast with my Auntie Deb, haven't you?
You've had your sister.
Two of them, Auntie Deb and my sister Lucy, on the day that all that kind of came crashing down around me, I knew they were the two to reach out to. So I rang them up, and Lucy tells me I didn't actually say anything. I just sobbed down the phone. I can't even really remember. But between the two of them, they kind of said, right, we'll pick you up and we'll help you through this. And they did. And what they did and how that happened for me was just countless conversations, just a lot of love and attention from them, and conversations around who I was and what had gone on for me, and really getting to understand, when I said earlier, self-love and self-knowledge for me, I kind of wanted to say, really getting to know myself. And it was actually 2015, I think it was 2015, Deb did a 90-day program that completely changed my life. It was called The Warrior's Journey. And it was all about warrior being someone who has courage and faith to step out into the world. And over 90 days, Deb just emailed me every single day. And there was a group of us doing it. And something about those 90 days just really hit me square between the eyes. And the crux of that for me was know the truth of who you are and love who you are. And that will change everything. And it's been, a journey since then. Don't get me wrong. There's been a lot, but that would be the time period where I really knew this is what I need to do. I need to know who I am and love who I am. And that will change everything. And it's an ongoing journey, but I would say that was the point for me.
So if you had to give people guidance as to how you got to know who you are, what you, was there anything that you particularly did?
Spoke to Deb almost every day. Yeah, I mean, that was.
I think there is something very useful about that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Being able to talk to somebody and talk through what goes through your head and work out what's right, what's rubbish, what you've made up, it's true, all of those questions.
Definitely. I mean, that laughing aside, that is what it was for me. What I would sort of say, because not everyone is going to be able to speak to Auntie Deb every day, although you can. That's probably not work
every day. Well,
that might not work for them. But the crux of that for me was spending time purposefully in a conversation that points you within yourself. And there's more than 1,000 ways to do that. Auntie Deb is brilliant at it. She's not the only one. That's not the only route to knowing yourself. But for me, it was spending time every day on purpose, getting to know who I am. And that's on two levels. I want to be very clear about that. That's both the human level. I call myself Bec. I might, like the colour blue. I might enjoy this kind of activity and this particular food. But it's also much deeper than that. It's the spiritual level. It's the knowing that I am the entire creative essence of the universe in this form, and getting to know what that can mean on lots and lots of profound levels. And I did that every day. I spent time, and a lot of that was talking to Deb, but it was watching videos, reading books, sitting quietly with myself and asking myself internal questions. It was a whole host of, but every day. And I still do that now, and it's just evolved in two different ways. But from around about 2015, when I did the Warrior's Journey, that's what I've done ever since. That's been my practice, if you like, is having some kind of invitation within me to come back to knowing and trusting myself.
So something that you just said, that there is the you, the Bec, the practical, physical you. And then there's other you that is part of the universe. Now, do you consider that to be something that's inside of you? So for me, like, I look at that as my sort of my own little spark, my own little inner being, my own little me.
Yeah.
Or are you seeing that as a whole universe, that you're out there and connected to that, or both?
Both. Yeah. And to kind of loop back to the story that I sort of started with about, for me, the church, my upbringing, the church, I think there was something about that I loved, but there was also something I misunderstood. And it's that, like, I never got the message from church, and I can't say whether they were saying this and I misheard it or they weren't saying this. But what I know now is that universal energy that's both within me and it's everything. It's external and internal. It's the whole shebang. And for me, that is God. Like, that is what resonates for me, because as I evolved and got to know myself, I was like, oh, that's what the Bible was trying to tell me. Jesus says, I and my Father are one. And he didn't misquote. That is what he meant. And for me, that suddenly came up. Oh, when everybody talks about God, that is who and what I am. For me, that's not a religious figure that I bow down and worship. That is the essence of who I am. And it's both within and without. It's all of it. And I find it really helpful to know that, because there are absolutely times when it feels to me like I need to go outwards to find some comfort. And so I can talk to God, and it feels as though God is separate to me. And then equally, there are times when I need something from within myself, and I can talk to myself within, and something comes out from there. And so there's no limits on that. If it's helpful for it to be outward for me, then it is. If it's helpful for me to be inward, then it is. It's all available. And to me, that's what that essence is. It's all of it.
And actually, I've had this conversation with Auntie Deb.
Surprisingly.
That's the fact that actually the word God is just a word.
Yeah.
If you want to call it universe, if you want to call it inner spirit, if you want to call it energy, if whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
that's fine, because actually the word God, it is just a word.
3 letters.
Yes. So from my perspective, it's far more about a feeling or feelings than actually believing there's a being there. It's about everything that's around, within, everywhere.
Yes.
And church can be, for some people, church gives a massive support.
Yeah.
And for some people it doesn't. So this isn't about saying that you need to be at church and you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that. This is actually about looking inside of you.
Yeah.
And finding that energy, that spirit, that universe, that God, whatever inside of you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. That is exactly why I also call this self-knowledge.
Yeah.
Because it's about knowing what is true for you. Like, there's no one route to this. This is absolutely the word that makes most sense to you, the feeling that makes most sense to you, the practices that make most sense to you. They have to come alive in you. Like, my words on it and my description of it is only ever an invitation to wake something up in you. And if in the meantime you want to borrow my words and my ways, that's what I did with Deb for about the first year, from 2014 to 2015, when she did the work. For about that year, I just borrowed whatever Deb said to me, until at some point my own innate wisdom kicked in and went, oh, this is what it is for you. And then the whole journey just took on another level. And everything I point to is that it's an invitation to wake up in you what it is. And the word God might not be it. The word universe might not. For a very long time, I kept hearing the word source, and all I could see was ketchup. And it just, it was like, oh, I'm going to say now. Sorry, everyone.
Yes. For me, I like to use the word source, but now
I couldn't. For me, I was like, I know what you're saying, but I can't connect with that word. But one of the things that Deb used to do, or she still will do now, is when we went on retreats, I would sit in the retreat room and Deb would just kind of start talking, and it was almost like she was channeling this energy, and she would say things, and sometimes she would say the word source. And in those moments, I just heard it because the feeling was there. Whereas when it comes to me talking with myself, my own internal God, source doesn't work for me. It doesn't grab that feeling for me. But what I would like to get across here about the self-knowledge is find the word, or words, plural. Sometimes I switch out and say universe. Sometimes I talk to the spirit of a person, an energy or something. And so for me, it is interchangeable, and it's finding what particularly speaks to you, that arises in you, that makes the most sense. Definitely.
And would you agree that that's true for everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Everything. What makes no sense to you? What word?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things I can see is the reason for me that the religion ended up, I love what happened for me. I love that I got to spend the sort of 10, 11 years as a committed member of a church, and then it didn't fit for me anymore. And I have love and respect.
Okay. That is okay, isn't it? Because we change each day.
Yeah, that was absolutely a part of the only part of that was painful for me was when I resisted it. When inside of me, I was like, no, I have to be in church for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And as soon as I was like, oh, I don't have to be, I can move out of that and evolve, everything felt lighter. So it's only in the resistance that there was pain.
So because when we talk about God, spirit, universe, whatever, we talk a lot about faith.
Yeah.
And I have to say that was a moment for me when I went, oh, faith doesn't mean religion.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that's not what it means at all.
Yeah.
And that was a moment for me because I have my own faith and it doesn't necessarily sit with any particular type of religion.
No.
I have my own faith, and that's to do with me and my inner self.
Yeah.
So if we look at faith, it is about holding on to what's right for you. That's faith, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And letting it go when it doesn't serve you anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the true part of for me was like my faith and my church connection really served me for about 8 or 9 years. And then it didn't anymore. And I was so resistant to letting that go that I got into the mess I got into. And it was only when I saw that it was okay for me to move on from that and find my faith in a different way that the pain receded and I moved away from the church. And that was right for me in that moment.
And that's not to say that I'm assuming from what you're saying that you're not going to church every week now, but that's not to say that in the future you might not. You might decide you're going to go to church.
If it occurred to me and that was where the movement took me, I'm not closed to that. What I see is the invitation is to keep evolving with what comes next. It's just what shows up next. Because even when I said earlier about that I'm an executive PA and it's only been in the last 6 months that's the next evolution, which is obviously not to do with religion particularly, but in terms of our business, that's been another evolution. So any and everything, like your question, I think that sparked this bit of the conversation is that in everything? Yes. Find what makes sense to you in any part of your life. And our business is constantly evolving. We're constantly kind of saying what's most ripe at the moment, what's fresh, what needs changing if something needs changing, what is still working that we want to keep acknowledging and doing. And for me, that's across the board. Like I do that with my relationship with my partner. I do that with anything like our home. We're about to have some massive changes with how we're living. There's just all areas of life. It's like I constantly am looking, going, what's fresh at the moment and what wants changing, what is still working and what do we want to love and honor. And that, whether that's religion for you, whether that's how you live, any of it, there's always an invitation because it's like water. Water doesn't work if it's stagnant. Water works when it flows and we're the same with that same energy.
But it's also not about necessarily a really easy journey, is it?
It's often not. I think that there's for me, there's 2 parts to that. It's often not easy because we go into resistance. Mm. It's easy when we allow it to be. Like there's definitely a play around that. There was something Deb actually read out to me this morning about there's a guy, Dominic Scafidi, that does some work around living miraculously. And he was talking about miracles and saying miracles happen with ease. The only thing that gets in the way is our resistance to that. And so to me, it's like the journey is probably going to be bumpy because we're here to have that level of human experience where we get, the good and the bad and the ugly and everything in between. But the ease with which things happen for me now is a lot more often because I am open to that happening through me. I still get the bumps when I'm in resistance. And that's cool. That's totally fine.
And that tells you you're in resistance then, because knowing you as I do, you know that much about yourself that okay, resistance, hang on, But yeah. it's a it's as human beings, we almost naturally have it ingrained in us. I can't think of the right word at the moment, to resist.
Yeah. So I tell you what I would say to that. My words, I really noticed something around the difference between what we call normal and natural. And what you were just talking to there, it's normal to resist. We're so used to it.
Yeah.
We go there and it's normal and it's what we do. It's natural to go with the flow. And we're not well programmed, if you like. Human beings are very programmable. And I use that in a light sense. I'm not talking about manipulating people on purpose, but we just get programmed. Like from the minute we're born, our parents are telling us stuff, and mostly with good intentions.
Yeah.
And so something becomes our norm, which is what you're talking about. We find it normal to resist. No, I don't want to change my role in the business, she says 8 months ago. 2 months later, oh, why am I in pain and struggling every day? Because I've gone into the normal pattern of resisting. I actually want some change in my business. Right, move into what's natural and go with that flow. And that's what happened 6 months ago. I said to Deb, something isn't working for me. What can we do differently? And that was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be.
And is that because of the fact that you're not resisting?
Yes, precisely. It's something coming up for me, something coming through me. If I trust and go with that, there's an ease to this.
So my experience of when I let go and go with the flow is it is easy.
Yeah.
What the difficult bit is to remember to let go and go with the flow.
Yes.
I kind of know.
Yeah, kind of.
I know, but actually,
yeah.
There's a lot of years of habits formed because, the majority of my routines throughout my day, how I think, they're all in my subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
They're not forward. And the process that I'm in now is bringing them forward.
Yeah.
And going, is this helpful to me now?
Mm-hmm. That's
is
it.
This what I need to be doing? Is this the way I need to feel, think, be, all of those? And what always amazes me with that is the fact that actually you get over the top of one lump and you think, right, okay, I know where I am. I've got this. And then I have a conversation generally with Auntie Deb.
Yeah.
How do I not realize that's so similar to this? How have I not noticed that? Because it's just so similar. But it just has to be a few particles or whatever away, and it hasn't got in the same way as the other thing that you got.
Yeah.
I'm rambling and not making sense here, but it makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
So on a slightly lighter level, tell me what lights you up. What makes you go?
Spreadsheets.
I know that does light you up, but that wasn't the first thing that I thought would come out. But I can really, because I like a spreadsheet.
Yeah. I'm half joking, but also not, because I really, and that actually links into the executive PA part of the business that's evolved in the
doing something that lights you up.
Yeah, doing something that lights me, and I love my spreadsheets. But what really lights me up is being able to talk in any way about knowing myself. And this conversation, as you can probably tell, my hands are up in the air, and I don't know when you release this whether the video comes with it, so people might miss all that. But like my hands,
it's a podcast as an audible, but it is going onto YouTube as a.
And if you want to see my hands in the air,
there's still sounds going on here. Yeah,
I get very excited when I get to explore the nature of who I am and how life works. And when you just said, I was having to sit on my hands and bite my tongue because you were saying something about your subconscious and it coming forward. And I was like, conscious creation. You're talking about conscious creation.
I am. Yes.
That lights me up. That is massively what we are talking about a lot at the moment, me and Deb, in our business. We start every single day in our office with a conversation. It's actually, we start with a book called Jesus Calling, which I would recommend if you've got a biblical background. If you haven't, probably wouldn't recommend it because it talks from there. And what it does for me and Deb is gets a conversation going every morning, because we create our business from the inside out. We do conscious creation around our business. And having those conversations lights me up. And then I get to go and play with my spreadsheet and consciously create income from this client and a new person contacting us over here. And, oh, so-and-so has just given us a testimonial and person X has just messaged to say how wonderful we are. And we haven't actually spoken to them for 2 weeks. How nice is that? And that's what lights me up, is consciously creating our business, and spreadsheets is a part of that. So
Tell me a little bit about your garden then.
Oh, my garden. Yeah. Interestingly, I was only messaging my partner yesterday. Did you think that was going to be the first thing that I was going to say?
I did think that was the first thing that was going to come out, not spreadsheets.
Oh, that's so interesting, because I was only messaging my partner yesterday, and I'm waiting for the garden to come alive in me, because that happens for me around springtime. I'm not a winter gardener at all. And I don't know about what's happening to you in South Devon, but here in North Devon, it feels like we're still in the depths of winter. So it's not.
We had a little bit of a day yesterday in South where skies and we celebrated that, but we're back. We're back to,
I mean, it's all right today. It's dry, but
it
feels for me like I'm waiting for spring to arrive. And as spring arrives, I get into my garden zone, because gardening, definitely spring and summer, I can't stop talking about my garden. I have already planted a load of seeds, and I've got sunflower babies that are about this tall now. And I love gardening. Was something interestingly that didn't arrive in my life until after the warrior's journey. That was something that came quite naturally to me. I'd left church and I'd suddenly got all this extra time I didn't know what to do with. And I was living in a little house still in Coventry in the Midlands where I grew up. And I was just kind of on a Sunday, it was a really strange experience. I would get up on a Sunday and be like, what do you do on a Sunday if you don't go to church? There was just this massive void. And my house happened to come, when I first rented it, came with a front garden and a back garden. And I'd never had gardens before that I'd had to think about. And so it just happened that I just started pottering around in them. And that definitely came alive in me. And finding, at first I would just plant things that I bought from the garden centre. And then I can't even remember where it started, but suddenly got this idea, what if I planted a seed? And it sat so naturally next to what Deb and I were talking about in my evolution and my getting to know myself. It's like, if I plant a seed and I nurture it, inside of me, that wakes something up and something grows. Oh, if I plant a seed and nurture it in my garden, guess what happens? Something grows. And definitely around, I'm sort of watching and waiting, because it feels like spring hasn't properly sprung yet. But I'm just coming into that time where I'm like, oh, my garden's going to grow and I've got ideas, and my partner owns his own house and he's got quite a big garden. So when he bought the house, he made me head gardener. So I have 2 gardens that I have to manage, which I love. So I've got a load of stuff in his greenhouse, but there's a lot of beautiful metaphors in gardening. And I think the combination of the journey I love to be on and the conversations I love to have, and then getting to do that in real practical terms when I plant a seed and I nurture it and I put it in the right conditions. And sometimes that seed doesn't go anywhere and sometimes it blossoms. Or like nature has the most beautiful metaphors for us. So gardening is definitely something for me that it gives me, and I know the reason you'll have asked this is because I shared a lot of that when I ran my self-love community, didn't I? Like almost every week be like, oh, the garden's given me this metaphor today and the garden's shown me this week. And it was definitely having just ready-made metaphors. Because when you were sort of saying a minute ago about we get into that root of normal versus natural, to me, that when we're in this conversation every single day, we get better at moving into the natural and staying out of these habits that might appear normal but aren't our easiest flow. And definitely gardening and kind of pottering around with that kind of, how do you take something? I mean, the seeds that I plant are so minute, I can't even show you because they're tiny. Like I put them on my hand and I just have to tip them into the pot because I can't pick up an individual seed. They're so tiny. And yet that seed contains everything it needs to become a gigantic sunflower or a massive tomato plant that produces endless tomatoes through summer for me, all of that. And you think, that's how we are. Like we started from a sperm and an egg that again are so minute. We can't see them unless we look under a microscope. And we grew into these complex, amazing, beautiful, fantastic human beings. And all of that for me just demonstrates the self-love that runs through us.
And that is the most amazing thing, isn't it? Because as you say about plants, if you do not nurture,
Yeah.
I mean, there are not just the same as human beings. There are always plants that will just keep going whatever you do to them.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Generally,
Yeah.
if you nurture your garden and you nurture your plants,
Yeah.
they do much better than if you don't.
Yes. Yeah.
That's exactly the same as us, isn't it? If we are nurtured, and that's not relying on somebody else to nurture us. That's nurturing ourselves.
That's a self-driven thing. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's nature, isn't it? And even one of the things that one of my favorite metaphors in nature is weeding. That I'm not very good at weeding. I have to say, I'm a little bit like, oh, come on. Why do weeds have to grow? But actually, when I do it, I really see the difference in anything that is in that area that then blossoms even more. And it's like, I do that with my mind when I talk about being in this conversation every day. I'm constantly weeding my mind. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. It's a little bit like, I don't know what the dating app is because I've never done those, but there's a dating app where you swipe and things, isn't there? I think.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I haven't.
I'm sure that's a great metaphor if you know which way to swipe and stuff.
Yeah.
You swipe one way to get rid of something and you swipe another way to date someone or whatever. That to me, like if you wanted to take the technological metaphor rather than the gardening one, that's what we're doing with our mind. We're swiping out the weeds and we're swiping, the nurturing part is bringing in the stuff we want. So it's like, which way are you swiping in your mind? Because whatever you're swiping in your mind or whatever you're nurturing in your mind is what you are going to get more of. And I purposely weed my mind every day and then nurture the good stuff and swipe out the not so great weeds. That is, whether that's a gardening metaphor or a dating app metaphor, it works both ways.
But what's also interesting, Mike, you've got me going down this journey now. Actually, the stuff that you've weeded out, actually, if you pile it all up, makes great compost because then you can reuse it in another format.
Yeah.
Which actually is exactly what we're doing in this podcast, in the fact that we talk about the journey.
Yeah.
The incident that, actually made us go, of all the weeds.
Yeah.
Made us go, no, I need to do something and I need to be able to blossom and grow and what have you. And you can use, your experience of feeling not so good to be able to go, oh, I'm feeling like that. This is not the place for me to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move on, and it can be,
isn't it?
that can be an incident, a thought, a person. It can be anything that can give you that feeling of, no, this isn't the place for me.
Yeah.
Would you agree on that?
Yeah. It's just everything that we get given in life is either going to be manure for the blossoming or it's the seed of the new blossom. And those two combined are going to just make something incredibly beautiful.
And it's as simple as changing your thought process to see it just that little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And that to me goes back round to what we talked about earlier about something waking up in you. Because I know, particularly when I did the Warrior's Journey, that was my first real shift, those 90 days. And I think we've actually talked about it before, because that was the thing really that woke me up. And throughout that, the course itself, it was an email every day from Deb. And some of those emails were like little challenges, little invitations, little ways to do things. Try this, have a go at this. And all of it was an invitation on a very subtle level to have a different process around thinking. Because for most of my life, what I had done was taken any thought that landed in my head as serious. Apart from the ones that are so blindingly obvious, like, no, don't step out in the middle of the road. There's a lorry coming. Like that. And thoughts that are blindingly obvious, don't do anything with that. But we take maybe 90% of our thoughts as real, true, and to be actioned. And actually probably about 10% should fit in that bracket. And they're the ones that come with really good feelings, like a real, true, pure feeling. And as I did those 90 days and ever since then, all I'm really doing inside of me is going, what kind of feeling does this thought come with? If it's a good feeling and I like it, follow it. If it's not a good feeling, don't follow it. And just being mindful of that all the time.
Been an absolutely fabulous conversation, Bec, but I want to give you a little bit of time to talk about what it is you actually do in your business.
Yes. So, I mean,
Lights up again.
when I'm not gardening, I'm doing my business. When I'm not doing my business, I'm gardening. So, I mean, you'll know some of this because you were at the conference with us back in March. But a lot of, I mean, our business is everything I've talked about. That's what we do, is share this with people. Until about September last year, I was working one-to-one with clients and I was putting out courses and stuff of my own. And it was around that time that, yet again, I had this movement in me of I need something different. And I'd actually been working one-to-one with clients who had been through accidents and were having rehabilitation. And a part of that was sort of the emotional, spiritual support. And I'd just come to a realization in me that I didn't want to be doing that anymore. It wasn't making sense to me. It'd been a great income. It'd been great clients, great experience, but I was done with that. And a bit like I mentioned, I'd known for about 2 years that I needed to leave the church, but I'm a lot quicker at those things. So I'd kind of known that for a couple of months, but was in that resistance, in that kind of, no, this is my income. This is what I do. This is who I'm meant to be. And ironically, our business is called Dare to Be You. So as it came to me, no, this isn't working for me anymore. Our business is about being who we are, and it's okay for who we are to be changing. And so at some point, it probably took me about 2 months before I was like, okay, I've got to do something about, like, this isn't working for me and I'm not comfortable. I start to feel that in my body. I don't sleep well. I don't eat well. And so fairly quickly, I happened to be around the kitchen table with Deb and Lou, which is quite a common place for stuff to come up for the three of us. And I just kind of said, I think I'm going to stop seeing these clients and I'm looking to do something different. I'm not really sure what that might be yet, but I need to be brave and own this. I need something different in our business. I need to be a different person here. And I could feel myself going, oh, they're going to hate me. I bring in a chunk of income. What are we going to do? And both of them very quickly said, perfect. Let's, how do we support you with that? And I kind of said, I don't know. I've obviously got some clients I'm working with that I've got to wrap up. So on a really practical level, I've just got to keep doing that until that comes to its natural end. But in the meantime, I don't know, is there something, what can I? And Deb kind of went, actually, that's a really good time for you to say that, because I'm in a position where I've got some really strong and good ideas for what I want to do with the business next, but I don't know how to evolve that on my own. You're really good at officey stuff. Do you fancy just supporting me with some of that? And as she said it, ping, I just went, I'm going to be your executive PA. Energy between the two of us in that moment, it was just crystal clear that was right for both of us. And it took a couple of months for us to evolve into that because of me wrapping up clients, Deb being clear about what she wanted to do in the business. But since that, so it was probably around about November that we officially said, right, this is my role in the business now. So it's still relatively new, but it was one of those things that almost the minute we said it, we've just found so many synchronicities. Oh, I can do that bit for you. Oh, that's my strength. I'll take that on. Oh, I can create more spreadsheets. Yes, all of the stuff that there's areas where, I mean, Deb is absolutely, the best at what she does and how she shares and what we teach. And I am very good and very confident at running and supporting all of the kind of admin side of a business. And because Deb and I know each other very well, obviously she's my auntie, but she's also my spiritual guru, if you like. We're very in sync with a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things Deb will say, I wanted to, and I'll be like, email that client, I'm on it. And that works very, very well for us. And it has changed our business. Like, there are things that have shown up out of that seed of an idea that have evolved and grown our business in ways that we've been talking about for probably 2 years and didn't quite know how to get there. And then this came to us to shift into, right, Deb is now the person that works with clients, puts together the courses. Bec is the person who emails someone when there's an appointment coming up to say, here's how you get on the call. Bec is the person that makes sure the income is coming in, follows up with clients if they're owing money, but all of that kind of side of things that you'll know this when you run your own business. There's certain skills. You need to be a marketer. You need to be able to put together a website. You need to be able to create invoices. You need to be able to speak to your clients. And one of the things when you run your own business often is there are parts of that just aren't your strength or your interest. And one of the ways that our business now works brilliantly well is that we do what is our strength and the thing that we're most passionate about. And it's just, it's changed the energy in our business. I think you probably saw that at the conference.
You could see, for those that don't know, Deb and Bec and Lou run a conference every year, and it's in beginning of March and up in North Devon, right by the sea. And I book. So it's booked. Before I leave the conference, I book to go again the following year. And it was so obvious from last year to this year that you've both slotted in to the place you need to be.
Yeah.
For the moment.
Yeah. And there's no part of me that thinks that in 60 years we would have this conversation and I would still be saying, I'm the executive team. Like, there's going to be evolutions and changes over the coming years. I know that. I've seen that's already how I operate, how human beings are. We change, and that's okay. And what I'm seeing is right now, our business works incredibly well with Deb at the helm and me as the executive PA. Like, the strengths we bring and the conversations we have behind the scenes. Even just this morning, as an example, Deb kind of went, right, I've got these opportunities that are showing up in my mind. And I'm thinking, I don't know what that means. Great. Let's have a conversation about that. As your executive PA, I'm going to open a document and we just batted back. And by the end of that conversation, I heard what she was saying was, there are situations and people and contacts coming into my inbox that are opportunities both for me and the other person to be cooperative so that we both gain something. I'm backing off from those if I'm forgetting about them or I'm scared of them. So as my executive PA, can you have those at the forefront of your mind and make sure I'm following up and doing?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's for Deb to follow up and a couple of them were for me to. And one of the things that works exceptionally well is us having that conversation and then very clearly going, right, that is for you to do, Deb, do that now. Or that's mine to follow up. I'll make sure that's done today. And just being very clear and honest with each other and ourselves so that from the outward view of it, our business runs smoothly. People are heard. People are interested in what we're up to. And there's such a beautiful give and take when you're operating a business like us and like you, that you get something, when a client works with you, you get that feeling of, I'm helping. You get the income you need because we all, I guess, want to pay our bills. And that client,
nice.
Yeah. And that client gets what they need. And then it goes on because who knows who that client is going out and working with and talking to and interacting with. And for me, that's the beauty of a business like ours is there's just this constant cooperative that just keeps rolling outwards. So I think that's my business. I don't know if that answers. That's what I do. I'm an executive PA to Deborah Simmons, who is the very best conscious creation teacher on the planet.
It is. I mean, I have a whole, for me, the word conscious comes into everything when I'm having conversations because, it's conscious thinking, it's conscious process, because the more that we are conscious of what we're doing, the more we get to know ourselves, therefore the more effective and more productive, the happier, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But we will put all of the links down below for getting in touch with Bec or Deb, whichever way you want to go.
Yeah.
Get involved. They're very, very good, as you can imagine, because Bec is very, very good at this stuff and getting out regular emails with so much information and so much value in. Get on the list for that. We'll put all of that down below. But it's lovely chatting to you, Bec. So
you too.
You goodbye for now because you never know what's happening in a few months' time.
Who knows? Anything could happen.
Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, Jenny.
Are you feeling stuck? Do you want to be able to create a better conversation with yourself, but just don't know where to start? I offer a free 20-minute session to see where you want to be and how to get you there. Just click on the link below. Remember, it's free. Book your space. It could change your life. Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.